Hello there, Tom Holyby with Ashgar Defense, here to talk to you some more about home defense stuff. This time I'm talking about ammunition. Well, it seems people are pretty diehard on their whole rock salt idea. There's a few reasons why you probably shouldn't do that. Namely, it's stupid. And it's stupid because you are introducing a lethal weapon, right? So you may know it's loaded with rock salt, but that guy doesn't know it's loaded with rock salt. And so his next reaction is reasonable. So when he pulls out a gun in an otherwise non-violent home prowling, I'm not saying he'd win any legal battles, but now you've just made this situation a whole lot hairier because you have rock salt loaded and you're pointing a gun at him. No, if you're going to point a gun at a person, it needs to be with the explicit purposes of lethal force. That's why you shouldn't use guns in road rage incidents. That's why you shouldn't get involved with these. You shouldn't be escalating force unless it's reasonable. Look, I'm going to break it down Barney style. The fact that he's at an address that's not his, warning 1. The fact that he went through a probably locked door, warning 2. You are now interacting with him and probably have a flashlight lit up in his face, and you're telling him, go away, stop doing things, I don't like it, fuck off. That was warning 3. Hitting him with rock salt is warning 4 for some reason. And that doesn't work on people who are flying high on something known as angel dust, PCP, fentanyl, methamphetamine, cocaine, or a combination of all of them. It also does not work on people suffering a psychotic break or are just simply super pissed off. An example of an individual being just so super pissed off that it doesn't matter how many times you shoot him, he's not going to die, is the Miami shootout with Platt and Maddox versus the FBI. I can't remember which one. It was either Platt or Maddox was shot so many times that he could have been shot in the exact same way on the operating table. All right, so that means everyone gets from the same spot. Bang, 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 bang. Okay, cool. Exact same injuries, everything. Lamb, he's on the table. They could not save his life. He was mortally wounded. He was going to die. He carried on shooting people for another 30 fucking minutes. Okay? So if we're dealing with those kinds of people, the people who don't have their pain receptors in sync anymore, then we're not going to be able to rely on pain as a compliance tool. We are relying on blood loss, shock, organ failure. We're kind of relying on a lot of other things. And that's what we have to be understanding of what we're dealing with. So the reason why we introduce this thing, this long arm, and lights and rifles, and in this case, well, this is an empty magazine because I'm pointing it places and demonstrating, but it's a 5.45 caliber bullet that I'm introducing to this situation because, well, someone's here who doesn't belong here. I don't know what their intentions are, and I'd really rather not be caught with a violent person without my own prescribed tools. You can use a shotgun for home defense. I'm not arguing that. I am arguing that you cannot use seasoning. Rock salt, bean bags, peppercorns. I know bean bags aren't seasoning, but peppercorn, chili powder, all this nonsense that people go out and buy because the clerk at the gun counter said, hey, I got this stuff and I don't take violence seriously. This is a job for me. Why don't you buy this crap? Then I inevitably hear, well, the police use beanbag rounds. And so therefore, you can watch like all these body cams. It's free. YouTube loves that shit. It's all over the fucking place. Every time you see a cop pull out a beanbag shotgun, there's about 4 other cops there with their pistols, their lethal options, right there. Beanbag, 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 didn't work, bang, 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 because now he's running at me. The cops aren't using beanbags because that's their first choice. In fact, many times if you watch these officers have their first interactions, they'll pull out their gun, If they maybe feel like they can, they'll pull out a taser. Whoop, oh, that didn't work. Okay. Oh, now I need a gun. That's kind of how it works. So what's the difference? You don't have 4 other people with a lethal option. It's just you. Well, you don't understand. If I shoot him with the rock salt and then he doesn't react to it, I'll just pump it and do what? You gotta wait. Bang! Okay. And now you're hoping, right? You're hoping that things are gonna go out your way. I'm sorry, if I feel the need to press a trigger on another human being, it's because they have gone above and beyond what's reasonable. They're doing something that requires me to make them stop as quickly as possible, which means I'm not using rock salt, especially if they start moving at me before I press trigger. That's kind of what force on force is for, is so that you can learn and dispel some of those silly myths. Nobody out there in this industry, to my knowledge at least, is taking rock salt or beanbag options seriously, and neither should you. If you're introducing a firearm into this equation, it's because it's escalated to a point that a firearm is what is required to reduce the equation down. Rock salt's not the option. Especially if this doesn't go the way you have pictured in your brain. Well, you see, I'll just come around and I'll see him hold my TV and I'll be like, drop my TV, bang, haha, rock salt, and then he goes away. No, it's probably be more like he heard you coming down the stairs, prepped himself around the stairs. As soon as you came around the corner, he jumped you, and the only shot you had available in that shotgun was the rock salt, which of course did absolutely fuck all to him except piss him off more. And also spike his adrenal glands, and now he's beating you to death with your 12-gauge shotgun that is now loaded with nothing. That's kind of how this more realistically will play out if you are a serious practitioner of rock salt. I'm not introducing firearms unless I absolutely need them to be introduced. I'm going to use de-escalation tactics, verbal, with a very real lethal option in between. So, hey, stop, go away. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Hey, stop it. Go away. And these are just called platitudes. These are for people who are not invested in this, so that they can get away with half-assing their way in through this. I don't need training. The same people who think rock salt's a good idea in a shotgun also think that you could just blast a shotgun and it hits everything that you need it to hit. And no pellets go awry and hit stuff you don't want them to hit. And every time I shoot a gun, it's accurate. It works. These are the same people. I call these gun douchebags. People who don't train but will tell you that their, grandfather's 1911 never jams. It's like, yeah, you kind of have to shoot it in order to find out if it will or not. It's called playing, and it's okay to play with your guns and go to the range, shoot some rock salt, at your targets. That's all well and good. But for serious purposes, I do things seriously, and my guns are for serious purposes. That's why I bought them. We tend to do that. Going back to 5.56 and its wounding, I tell people a lot that when I get into a dangerous use of force or lethal use of force, I really kind of hope that my firearms are lethal. I didn't buy the feather bullets. I bought the lead and copper and expanding bullets for this explicit purpose. So when this is my little bit of advice, don't take the opinions of people who suggest rock salt seriously. They're not invested in you making it long term. They really aren't. They're barely interested in keeping themselves alive long term. You kind of need lethal force. Someone's got your kid held hostage or in the hostage shot, right? So when they're holding your kid like so, and you shoot him in the face, which first of all is going to be quite a troublesome little court case, and it's happened before. But you hit him in the face with rock salt, it's not going to turn off that nervous system. So he goes, boop. And now, because of your platitude, because of your silliness, because of your inability to take this seriously, you now have a child or a loved one with a perforation to their neck, a piercing to their neck that they didn't have before this. And that's why we need to take this seriously. People are depending on you to behave and not give bad guys free guns. You know, people who suggest rock salt are borderline offering a free gun. People who put gun stickers on their cars and then leave their shit on those stupid little magnets are advertising free guns. Don't arm bad guys. Make sure you're not the one who's causing your kids to get perforated, especially if he goes, ah! And now it's an accidental stabbing. Oh, God, oh, jeez, I can't see. And whose fault is that? We understand that the guy with the knife is probably mostly to blame, but now you've caused that. Versus you put 9 double-aught buck, what are these, 50 grain, 40 grain, something around there, pellets, all mostly located right about here. That's why we have offset training and stuff like that, is so that we understand in these really high-stress situations. Oh, boom! There it is. I forgot, offset. And that's how that works. That's why we train that way. That's why your instructors pose those challenges to you. Having rock salt be the thing, especially in something that's a pump gun, is not a good idea, because you are opening up this time space where the threat can do whatever the fuck they want while you load up another one. So, you know, it's kind of like you just go with the thing that works the first fucking time you use it, not something that has more steps, especially if you're just going to result around to the same solution. You know, when every police officer I've spoken to on the beanbag thing, they'll tell you that the target is not up here. It's not here. It's down here because it has to be less lethal. And when you put out on the internet, which is a bad idea, that you're going to purposely misuse a product like a beanbag or rock salt or peppercorns and shoot someone in the face with it, you're openly admitting to criminal neglect and other such legal challenges. And it's just not worth it. It's way easier to say to the guy, hey, I shot him with the buckshot, or I shot him with the 9mm because I needed him to stop. I desperately needed him to stop doing that. I needed to render him unwilling or unable to continue the fight, with death being a very real consequence to my actions. Okay? So don't buy into the rock salt beanbag gimmicks. It's platitudes for people who've got no spine on this and haven't taken a force on force, or haven't really applied any of this in any measure whatsoever. All right? I hope this helps someone. All right, bye.